Welcome to Everything Life Coaching, exploring the art, science, and business of coaching with your host, Noelle Cordeaux, CEO of Lumia. Each week, we dive into cutting-edge coaching trends, interview industry experts, and provide practical insights to help you thrive on your coaching journey. Get ready to expand your coaching toolkit and transform lives, including your own.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Life Coaching podcast. It is my deepest pleasure to introduce a new friend of mine. This is Tobi, who is in the space of entrepreneurship alongside of me, a co-founder, co-CEO of metaFox. And Tobi is a self-proclaimed coaching tools geek, which gets my blood pumping. So I'm delighted to have this conversation and dive into some aspects of the science that are going to be really new for me. So I'm going to be learning alongside of you as Tobi kind of lets us into his world and what he's up to and how coaches can utilize tools to enhance their practices. Tobi, welcome.
Thanks for the super nice introduction, Noelle. I'm super hyped to be here.
Yay. Well, please give us just a little bit about yourself. Where in the world are you? What is your business? What do you do? What do we need to know?
Yeah, I'm Tobi. I'm based in Cologne in the west of Germany. And since 2018 at metaFox, we've been building tools that help coaches and, of course, in the end, the clients of these coaches to explore their inner world, find the right words for emotions, values, needs. That's kind of the themes that we are all about, and that I got super excited very early on. I think in 2014, I did my first sort of trainer facilitator and not long after coach education. Coming originally from an engineering background, so all these concepts didn't come like super naturally to me, and that's also where I guess I bring like this the geekiness for concepts, models, and combine that with psychology work, basically.
Amazing. I didn't know you had an engineering background. That's super interesting. And I'm so curious about the bridge, because in the worlds that I've rolled in, and I don't know if this is fair to say about engineers, that engineers statistically have trouble fully communicating emotions.
Yeah, I think that is somewhat fair to say. I of course, I guess there's no point in generalizing, but it's definitely cultures and also sort of the educational culture, the background that we come from, that shape us and that maybe strengthen more the analytical parts in the case of engineering, maybe also in the case of other disciplines like law or something, that generally expose you less to that world, let's say.
I completely relate. So my background is law. So we are GPs in a pod coming from very structured analytical backgrounds and moving into worlds of deep emotional complexity. You know, especially given educational templates, I don't think it's unique, especially in 2026, where thinking back just 1 year ago to 2025, the Oxford Dictionary's word of the year was brain rot, which is describing the phenomenon through which folks have really lost access to both their analytical and innate emotional abilities. So kind of giving us a primer on, I think, what is the foundation of your work, which is emotional literacy and being able to move that to verbal expression. Why is it important for lawyers, engineers, everyone to be able to get really specific when talking about emotions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess if we speak about emotional intelligence, then I think a lot is there's kind of two levels to it. So let me maybe start with the first level, and I think that is sort of having the skill of what we could call emotional granularity. And that is basically, do I have many words to express my emotions? Do I have many words to express what's going on inside of me? And if we look at someone who maybe has a relatively low level of emotional granularity, then they might say things like, I feel like shit. Okay, what does that mean? I guess we can all relate with that feeling. I feel like shit, if we even want to call it a feeling, of course. But it is very hard to do anything with that if I realize that for myself, right? Whereas if we try to look a bit more deeply, connect more with our body, then we might get to something like, I feel loneliness or I feel disappointed. And that is something that already becomes a lot more actionable, of course. If I say I feel loneliness, then it already is sort of implied, what can I do about it? It is about the need for community. So the need to belong to someone else, to other people. If I say I feel disappointed, then it is about an expectation that maybe wasn't met. So that already brings us either both in a coaching conversation or also just in personal life for ourselves to a place where we can take the emotion as a prompt, as a signal to do something about.
Yes. Now, so here's where I'm beginning to see the link to our work in coaching, is that drilling down on the specificity gives us the opening to invite the client to consider moving to action in a certain regard. When you're working with individuals and teams and folks begin to move to a space where they have competency in this work, what does it unlock for them?
I was just saying earlier that there's two levels to it. And the first level is this, like, do I have the right vocabulary, the skill of emotional granularity? And I guess the other level is deeper, is in a way, how much do we have access to our bodily sensation? Because in the end, emotions are sort of an interplay of thoughts and also of bodily sensation. And in the end, they need to be felt in the body. And if I have like an emotion and that can, I guess, be both on the level of I feel like shit or I feel loneliness, it's interesting to explore, okay, where do I actually feel that in my body? How does it feel? Maybe also prompts like, what color does it have, or something like that can help us to get that access. And that also makes us much more attuned to where we are right now, and also how do we respond to difficult situations when interacting with someone else, or also when having inner dialogues. And yeah, I guess that in itself already makes it a very powerful skill.
Yes. So if I'm understanding the weight and the worth of this, we're talking about somatic integration, soma being body, where we're really beginning to understand for ourselves the integration of thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations to bring it all together into one unified felt experience.
Yeah, and I guess to some of us, this comes easier than to others. And I mean, we talked about like our backgrounds in engineering and law, and how maybe also our Western culture is not very prone to prioritize these kinds of concepts or these kinds of skills. And if I look at my own personal experience there, then I told you, like, I did my first training in the facilitation and coaching world in 2014, and then I did a bunch, and I was like really this geek of, okay, let me learn a new concept, let me learn a new model, let me learn a new intervention, which mostly happens all on a cognitive level. And at some point I realized, okay, maybe this is sort of like this cognitive work. It was also a bit sort of my guilty pleasure. And then at some point I thought, okay, maybe the next unlock for me is not the next coach training, but it is actually to look into this body stuff. And so what I did was to attend a Vipassana retreat, which is this sort of meditation practice where their basic program lasts for 10 days. So you arrive there, you hand in your phone in a box, you hand in, I don't know, the book that you carry in a box, and everything goes away for 10 days. You are just with your thoughts. So no speaking, no writing, not even looking into the eyes of your co-meditators. And then, you go through this program, and basically from 5 a.m. until 9 p.m. every day, you mostly meditate, take a short break, meditate, take a short break. And when I say meditate, what like this technique is mostly about is sort of body scans. So really learning to feel your body. And this was quite life-changing for me. I mean, of course, it also, I think it's a bit like going to the gym. So the skill also fades away. It's not like, okay, you do this once and then you are enlightened. It's really a practice, I would say. And in that way, this is, I believe, the other level. So on the one hand, we have sort of this in the end, again, cognitive skill of knowing words to describe emotions. And then underneath that, there is this ability to connect with your body, be present, and feel it also in difficult moments.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is incredibly important. And one of the things that I've been looking at for many long years is the role of tech adaptation in society and how we have become so separated from our bodies on lots of different thresholds, from even having, our, I don't think that most people think of their social media presence as like having an avatar, but that's really, what it is you're presenting this non-self version of the self to the world constantly, and then getting all jacked up on dopamine. And then most recently, I was looking at what's happening right now in terms of how the trend towards optimization and longevity really took over a lot of the health and wellness world. And it's backfiring in a way where we have so many trackers and Oura rings and steps counters that we've become even more disconnected from just being able to say how we actually feel. And knowing that on an intuitive level, that, going back to that idea of brain rot, where we're acquiescing our human capacity, that we're looking at our trackers to tell us how we feel without actually having that knowing. So you and I are beating the same tom-toms in terms of a return to the self, a return to self-integration. And when I did a little bit of research to kind of get into this work, I was really surprised to see that being able to specifically name your emotions alongside that bodily integration has health outcomes, individual health outcomes and interpersonal health outcomes. What have you seen, either qualitatively, personally, or just, in your research?
I guess, again, there's different levels, of course, because what I described earlier, this ability of having many words to describe how you feel, or also having many words to empathize with someone else. And then on the other level, the skill of being connected with your body, not needing your Oura ring to tell you how you feel or how you slept. That, of course, makes you much more attuned with the moment. And I guess also makes you more present in terms of how stressed am I? Do I need a break? Do I need to reconnect with my body? Do I maybe just take a deep sigh to sort of de-stress? And I think having that sort of attention present on a day-to-day is, of course, super valuable to regulate your stress, which again has then positive health outcomes. So I think there's this level of, yes, for sure, there's like many ways to explain that, but I think even just without just experiencing this and knowing where like how does your nervous system perform, I guess that's in the end the way to explain it, right? But just experiencing that on a feeling level can already tell you that it's a super useful skill to de-stress and to, in the end, be probably less prone to cardiovascular diseases or anything in that direction.
You're spot on. So I just did a deep dive into the 2026 global wellness trends. And one of the top areas where coaches are going to find spaces to work is in the space of neuro wellness, which is, it's a very fancy word for the very simple and fundamental practice of de-stressing and being in your body and actually having tools and techniques and the capacity to understand what your body's doing, how you're feeling, and then from there, obviously, be able to settle down and take actionable steps towards health and wellness. So from here, what's a way in? What do you do? What is the tool that you have created to help everyone get into this space?
There's not a single one, but let's maybe focus on two groups of tools that we have at metaFox Coaching Tools. You can check them out on metaFox.eu, or if you work online, then metaFox.online. And I think we are most known for working with pictures. And now that may be a bit of a stretch, like how do we get now from emotions to pictures? But let me try to explain. In the end, we process pictures and words on sort of two different levels. And the pictures offer us in a way, a bridge between mind and body. So there's this concept that is called the Zurich resource model. So this is not what we invented, but basically, in a way, the research we are grounded in. And that is a lot about using pictures to connect with your bodily sensations. So you would maybe show a client a picture of something that looks irritating. I don't know. We have one card in our set that shows a drowning person, or someone who is about to cut his finger with a knife when cutting a cucumber, and that immediately provokes a response in the client, something like panic maybe. And then you can immediately explore, okay, how does that feel? Where do you feel this in your body? And that helps you as a client to connect with the body, and helps you as a coach to explore this also with clients who maybe are not super experienced in even paying attention to their body. And then, of course, you can also bring that to a more empowering state by inviting your client to pick an image that maybe describes their vision, that describes a positive feeling, and then explore that image. And yeah, and this again allows you to connect your client more with their body.
Yes, and I in my own work, one of my favorite theorists is Margaret Moore. She's out of Harvard. She founded Well Coaches, and she talks a lot about how, in terms of intuition and sensing, the body goes first. But so many of us are actually disconnected from the body that we're not able to fully receive the messages. So I'll often give my clients a primer of throat, chest, stomach, back of the neck. And those are typically places where our body will respond to memory. And memory is often based on visual stimuli or environmental stimuli, a smell, a sound, a taste, an image. And so, thinking about the work that you do, the concept of dual coding theory, where our brains store verbal information and visual information separately, and the brain is like just always searching for that image to help us make sense of our current reality. And so I can see that with this tool, this is literally how you're bringing it all together, because the brain has an image to focus on. And then we can almost backtrack into our bodies. Do I have that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly this dual coding theory that where this bridge also comes in. And I guess with my answer just now, I also sort of started with the the deeper, the more complex way, I think also on a even simpler level, there's something that we call the third object effect. If you have a card, a picture, and you can introduce yourself or introduce how you are, not by having to talk about yourself, but being able to talk about this third object, so a picture, and what you see there, that also comes a lot easier for many clients, for many workshop participants also, because it gives people a new perspective, and they maybe talk about the, I don't know, the rock, the sunset, the person that is walking towards the sunset in this picture, and connect that then with their own inner world. And that gives them sort of this fresh perspective on how they are. And I can tell you from experience, people are much more likely to reveal their inner state, reveal maybe what's going on in their life, if they don't have to talk about themselves, but they can talk about a picture. And that is sort of the magic of working with picture cards, also independent of all the body and the dual coding theory and all of that, just in very much in practice.
Excellent. So it's the externalization aspect of it that really gets people moving. The phenomenon that you described, where people are able to really unlock and kind of hone in on representations of their own life, on metaphor. I've heard a lot in the scope of coaching in nature, that when people are able to go out into nature and they see a dried riverbed or they see a mountain that they want to climb, then they're able to really conceptualize and get out of their heads in a different way. And it sounds like with the cards, you're essentially bringing this toolkit along with you in a very portable way, where you might not have access to a dried riverbed to have your client, take a look at. But with the cards, you're bringing all of that to the table, quite literally.
Exactly. So you basically you give clients the freedom to choose a prompt and use that to reveal something about themselves. There is also this concept of projective methods, projective freedom. And this basically says that if you as a coach give your client an object that can be interpreted in many different ways, and most of our picture cards, they do that, then the fact that clients can choose from so many different things, like if you give them a photo of, I don't know, the person walking towards the sunset, there's so many thoughts this can provoke in the client, so much variety and freedom, that basically what the client constructs, the meaning the client gives the picture, already reveals a lot about themselves. So many of, or maybe you and also many of the listeners may know the Rorschach ink blot.
Yes, certainly.
It's the same concept, basically. If you have like a very abstract ink blot that basically looks like a cloud or something, then you have so many different options to interpret, that basically what you then interpret into this is probably something that is quite meaningful for you at the moment. And I'm not saying that we should use this to diagnose a person. This is what Rorschach did, I think, 100 years ago. But we can use this as a prompt to then explore more what's going on inside you. So it's very relevant to explore this inner emotional space.
That's cool. And it sounds like this would be a great tool to bring out if a coach is experiencing stuckness with a client and they really just don't know where to go, and maybe need the client to unearth a little bit more before they can find awareness, direction, something. Because I think one of the more frustrating things in coaching is when you have a client who continually says, I don't know. And then when you're faced with visual stimuli, that's not an option to not know, because it's right in front of you. When you were creating the cards, it was really interesting to me that you were saying that each of the cards was constructed to be able to have multiple perspectives drawn to it. What was it like for you? What went into thinking about the specific images that are in the deck?
Yeah. So we have more than 20 decks on different themes. And I would say one key distinction is, does the deck contain only positive cards? Like, is it only the bright sunrise or sunset that I was now always talking about? Or does it also have like dark, gloomy images, the drowning girl that we talked about earlier, the burning chair, something like that. So this is, I think, one key aspect when you choose to work with pictures as a coach. Like, do you want basically consciously to open up the room to also discuss the gloomy, the dark, the difficult? Or is it rather you are doing a team building workshop, or you only have a quick session and you rather want something light, a positive warm up or something, or build a positive vision with the clients? Then you maybe don't go for that. So to get back to your questions, what did we think about, or what do we think about when we develop these products? It is, on the one hand, what does the card evoke? Would we say it's a positive or a negative, a pleasant or an unpleasant emotion? And then, of course, it's also about, is the photo beautiful? Like, does it have depth in a way? What are the colors? And then basically we curate hundreds of cards, like put them out on a circumflex of emotions to basically make sure where in a circle, if you would basically map emotions according to high energy, low energy, pleasantness, unpleasantness, where would the card land? Of course, this is a very subjective work. There's no objective truth in this. So you need a bunch of people to give their perspectives. Then you do the same with colors. You do the same maybe also with diversity of people, right? We don't only want to have white men in a card set like this. This is a mistake we actually made in the beginning until we got that feedback. So yeah, these are things that we watch out for to basically give exactly this projective freedom that I talked about earlier.
Awesome. I know that you also run trainings for coaches on how to utilize these cards, how to go deeper with the visual cues. If someone's just coming into this space and saying, I'd like to try this, what might be surprising for unpracticed coaches in utilizing these tools? What could come up in a session that they need to be aware of?
Yeah. I guess what makes these tools so awesome and is also maybe surprising to some is how easy it actually is to work with them. So even that's why I think, especially when you are maybe in the early days of your coaching career, or even if you are a HR person or a leader and you want to go more deep in your one-on-ones, but you have very little experience with coaching facilitation, then this is particularly awesome because it gives you this door opener to go deep relatively quickly, to allow your client, your employee maybe, to talk about themselves without having to talk about themselves. So exactly this third object effect that I was talking about earlier. I guess this is one key thing. And also probably how most initial users of picture cards and maybe also of emotions cards, I didn't even mention those now. Let's get there in a minute. How they use them. So a quick, simple warm-up. Which card describes how you are feeling today? Or which card describes the last 2 weeks of your collaboration in the team? This is basically the quick warm-ups that can be really easy to facilitate, but at the same time, really powerful. And then I think the other thing that is surprising is how far you can go beyond this simple warm-up, right? And there we come back to this more complex process that I described earlier, like really going deep with a single picture, having a client maybe pick a picture that describes a challenge, something that doesn't come easy to them, really exploring it with them. What do you see in the card? Which colors, which shapes catch your eyes? Which details? What is actually missing in that picture for you? And by exploring a topic without exploring the topic, but basically having things represented in the image, that can be quite powerful and give people a new perspective on that.
Interesting. Yeah. So now you were saying that you also have a different set of cards, emotional cards. What are those?
Yeah, exactly. So on the one hand, we have these picture cards, plenty different ones of them. On the other, we have cards with words. So this brings us back in a way to what we talked about earlier, this skill of emotional granularity. Pretty much, do I find the right words to get from I feel like shit towards I feel loneliness because my need for community is not fulfilled? How about we schedule some couples time tonight? Or something like that. This brings us in a way to nonviolent communication as a concept many of you might be familiar with. So being able to communicate feelings, needs, maybe also strengths or emotions in other coaching cases. And for those, we also have a bunch of different resources. So those can be card sets where we have words on them, card sets where we have words and pictures on them, or also sort of cheat sheets. The classic emotion wheel, I think, is used a lot. We also have this in a very thought through and laminated kind of way, as well as tools like this for online use.
That's cool. I feel especially in the realm of relationship coaching, working with folks to name their needs is the new frontier. I have been doing this work for a really long time, and I am continually amazed by how hard it is for folks to name their needs. And then that bridge is actually communicating to the people who are closest to them in the world. That's where the biggest blocker is. And so I can see how this externalizing technique can help bring the walls down. Do you use it in your own life?
Yeah, very much. I mean, early already in our, I would say, personal development coach training, we were very much exposed to nonviolent communication, which I just mentioned already, which is this concept invented by Marshall Rosenberg. And he has these nice metaphors of the giraffe and the
jackal.
Yeah, exactly, the jackal. Okay, which if you attend nonviolent communication seminars, at least in Germany, you often have a very specific niche. Maybe it's this moms type that want to build a better relationship with their children or something. It's a very, very particular bubble, I would say, which I engaged with a lot, which I love. And then a few years in, when I basically was exposed to leadership and concepts like these, I also went to sort of emotional intelligence for leaders training, which is in the end the same thing. And it's so funny how it's the same thing. You talk about mindfulness, sensing the body, emotional granularity, these things. And in the end, it's the same concepts, I would say, maybe using some more fancy words when you go to the leadership word. And we build tools to make this kind of work in both of these spaces easier and make it more fun by having this nicely designed and thought through in a way.
Well, this was super fun. From here, the next time Tobi and I get together is going to be inside Lumia Coaching, and we're going to be doing a demo of all of the cards. So for those of you who are students at Lumia, you know that every time we run a coaching mastery, it is recorded, it lives in a library for you. You'll be able to access this demo and learn what Tobi does in real time. And for those of you who are curious, we will also make that presentation public Of course, come visit us at lumiacoaching.com to get more information and sign up to hang out with Tobi and I. Tobi, this was super fun. Thank you so much for your time today, for the learning, for the explanation. As we depart, please let folks know where can they find you, and really, who do you want to come find you?
Yeah, thanks, Noelle. I'm also super excited for our next session because I think I can talk a lot about this, but it needs to be experienced to actually be understood. So yeah, let's do this together. And if you maybe can't make it, but you anyway want to experience it, then of course, just give it a try. If you coach in person, then I would say some of our paper card sets might be interesting. You can get them on metaFox.eu. So like meta and the fox.eu. We can also make a small discount code if you like. We didn't talk about this, Noelle, but I guess we can do something like Lumia 20 for 20% off for all orders from your community. And if you are doing this online, then basically it's the same name, metafox.online. And there we are building the platform to use these prompts and other coaching tools in a really easy to use and low friction way with your client.
Awesome. Delightful. Well, I'm excited to have part 2 of this conversation, and we will do it again. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for learning alongside me. And Tobi, thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks, Noelle. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If today's episode has inspired you to take the next step in your coaching journey, I invite you to explore what Lumia Coach Training has to offer. Our comprehensive coach training program can help you turn your passion and gifts for helping others into a thriving career. Ready to learn more? Book a no-obligation call with our admissions team today. Just visit lumiacoaching.com/everything and click on the Book a Call button. We'd love to hear your story and show you how Lumia can support your coaching goals. And if you're waiting for a sign to take the next step, this is it.